Hello everyone, welcome back to the Andrew Woodhouse Show. This is episode 2 on Wednesday, the 21st of August 2024. It's a beautiful morning, and I hope everyone's having a fantastic day. Thanks very much for joining me yesterday. I really appreciate it. It's always difficult when you start something for the first time, and to have support from everybody was fantastic. I hope that it continues and we can talk about a lot of great sporting action and sporting discussion. The first point I want to make today is obviously we're right in the middle of the football transfer window, and a few of these deals that have been going on these last few days have been kind of a bit strange, really, right? You've had Conor Gallagher going back and forth from Madrid to London to Madrid again, and he has actually this morning signed for Atletico Madrid. But it don't really take away from the fact that it's a strange transfer. On the part of Chelsea, that is. Madrid, they're getting an England international, they're getting someone who's played a majority of games for England in the Euros. He came on in nearly every game. I think he started one. But for Chelsea, he's a homegrown player, so he would have counted towards the quota. He's one of their better midfielders. He brings that energy, he brings that tenacity. He brings a good attitude to the team. I'm a little bit surprised they've allowed him to go so cheaply, even though, yes, they have 40-odd players or whatever. In the same sense that João Felix coming back to Chelsea after he had that loan spell there, didn't he, a couple of years ago. I don't know whether it's going to work. I'm not crapping on Chelsea really as much as sometimes they're not my favourite club, being a Leeds fan and whatever, but I feel like it's a bit of a daft move, and maybe one that might end up coming to bite them at least financially. João Felix is a good player, but he's not had sort of the most successful few years. It might be a good chance for him to restart his career, but there's a lot of strangeness going on in this window, and Ivan Toney could potentially be moving to Saudi Arabia, and that's a baffling one to me. Ivan Toney, when he was in League One, he always said that he was England quality striker, Premier League quality striker. This was when he was back down in League One for I think it was Peterborough. And now he's actually a Premier League player. He's had that betting ban, and even though he's been very, very good, he scored one of the best hat-tricks I've ever seen against Leeds United a couple of years ago. But he's not. I don't understand even why. Well, I understand why he's being tempted, right? The pound signs are obviously flashing in his eyes about this move to Saudi Arabia. But he might be throwing away the best years of his career if he goes to Saudi right now. What is he, 28, 29? He's got plenty of time at the highest level left. I don't see why really he's going to be going to Saudi Arabia. I mean, yeah, he's going to get paid absolute exorbitant amounts of money. But do £50 notes fill your trophy cabinet? Do they won't put a Champions League in there. They won't put a Premier League title in there. And they certainly won't fulfill you from a professional standpoint. They might fulfill your bank account from a point of view of having a few extra zeros in it. I think he's very good. I think he's a very, very good player. I think that there are some teams at the top of the Premier League, or not even the Premier League, other leagues as well around Europe, who are crying out for a striker. You think of, Manchester United need a striker. You know, you could argue Arsenal need a striker, and yet Saudi Arabia would, for me, be a mistake. You know, you might turn around and think, oh, what do you know? Well, I've seen it before. You know, look at Oscar going to China when he was 25 or whatever. Look at Yannick Carrasco going also to China, I believe it was, when in his mid-20s, and he ended up coming back to Atletico Madrid because he wanted to play in a better league. So I think you can make that mistake. Yeah, you can go there for a year or two. I mean, look at Jordan Henderson's come back, hasn't he already? Jordan Henderson's gone to the Dutch league because he wanted to be in the better competition. So I think it'd be the wrong move for Toney. Speaking of people coming back, actually, Ilkay Gundogan is supposedly being courted again by Man City to come back after his deal at Barcelona, I believe, has expired. Has his contract expired? Oh, so it's more financial trouble for Barcelona, isn't it? Yeah. So, but again, though, you've got to question the wisdom of it. Yes, he'll come back. Yes, he's a great hero of Man City. He's a terrific Premier League player. I know when Leeds played Man City a couple of years ago, Gundogan was the best player on the pitch. But having him come back just underlines the ridiculousness of releasing him in the first place, of allowing him to leave on a free. If he's so important, if he's so good, you keep him. Keep hold. And you know, I think he's a terrific player. I think he deserves a good send off instead of being some sort of pawn in Barcelona's litany of financial nonsense that they've gone through over the last so many years. Self-inflicted, you've got to say. But Gundogan is a great player. He will provide Man City with that depth in central midfield and that quality and experience as well. They've got a lot of youngsters in that side, and I think they will. I think that he will be able to certainly lead them in the right direction. But it's just how you know, all this underlines how bloody stupid the ownership of sometimes Man City and Chelsea and some of the large clubs can become. A little bit of baseball from last night. Colorado defeated the Washington Nationals 3-1. But I just want to single out Angel Chivigi, the young reliever, Rule 5. He wasn't a Rule 5 pick, was he? But he's been on the roster just for the first time. That was Anthony Molina. He's on the roster. He's been on the roster for most of the second half. Well, all the second half of the season, and he got his first major league win a couple of nights ago. And last night he pitched the ninth inning. He got his first major league save, and it looked very, very good in the process. Drew Romo also started behind the dish. He got his first major league hit as well. He's the prospect who, if you were watching yesterday, I was explaining was what the reason why the Rockies released Elias Diaz. But yeah, it was a good performance. Got the win in really good style, and I thought that outplayed a pretty good side in the Washington Nationals. So second half's been pretty good for us so far. Hopefully we can. I think the goal for the Rockies in the second half of the season is certainly to finish above 500 for this part after the All-Star break. I think it can be done. I think we've got a good group of players. I think this core is good. I think the squad is good, and I do think that we can. I think we can win more than we lose before October comes. Right. Just a little bit of a question I want to pose. Is the UFC becoming too much like boxing, and not in a good way. Now, I've watched UFC for 15 years. I watched boxing for quite a bit longer. I love both sports for different reasons. Boxing has the massive fight feel. It can put on a show like no other. The Anthony Joshua Vladimir Klitschko fight was a sensational spectacle. Wembley was packed. Wembley was rocking, like it will be on Sunday as well for All Elite Wrestling when they do All In at Wembley as well. And I will have a preview of that later on in the week, because that is a huge deal for a very, very young company. But back to the UFC. And I've always thought that the best thing about the UFC is that the best will fight each other. The best will always fight each other. Because the matches are made, it's booked, or more like professional wrestling is booked. More like than boxing, where it seems like even though there are governing bodies coming out your rear end, you've not. It seems like everybody just avoids everybody until they get the fight that they want. And actually, some of the fights that get made aren't the ones that you want. And then on top of that, some fights that everybody wants, thinking Fury, Joshua. Well, Fury Joshua is the only one that comes to my mind at this very moment. But they just end up not getting made at all until the fighters are either past it or irrelevant. So I'm going to pose this question that Jan Blachowicz was talking about. So Jan Blachowicz is the Polish fighter in light heavyweight division in the UFC. He's been fighting in the UFC for a long time. Excellent fighter, really, really good, all round athlete, really. And he and a couple of others have voiced a bit of dissatisfaction with Alex Pereira having the fight against Khalil Roundtree instead of taking on Magomed Ankalaev, who is probably the top contender. And Blachowicz is saying, why have they booked Ankalaev with Rakic instead of Ankalaev versus Pereira? And what it seems like, is, well, what he's insinuating is that the UFC and Dana White are keeping Alex Pereira away from the better fights, from the harder fights, to have him ready for a title fight again when they want. Now, I love the UFC. I do. And despite, certain persuasions, shall we say, of the ownership, I think that it's one of the, I think MMA in general, it's one of the best sports on the planet for the simple reason that it's honest. And everybody, as in it's honest in that when you get in the cage, you get in the octagon, the ring, whatever it is, excuse me, you see who the best man is, or woman. And you see who that person is, and you see the real person in there, right? You see whether the training camp's paid off. You see whether the coaching's paid off. You see whether the physical conditioning is paid off. And then you've got the fighting instincts which come into play. Now, the best thing about the UFC, for me, is that you got what you got. Like, as Nepenthes, the FIFA content creator, says, get what you get and you don't get upset, right? You have matches that are made, the fights take place, you move on, the rankings are reshuffled, and then you get the next fight. And that could be anybody. There shouldn't really be any there wasn't, at least when I started watching, any real type of promotional tactics in terms of, oh, we're going to put this fight on this card and we're going to put this fight on this card. It was like, who's ready? Who's the number one contender? You're going to fight for the title. Now you're seeing a few instances of, well, so and so isn't ready to fight so and so, but then they can fight someone else, but they can't have the fight that everybody wants them to have. And I think it's just a bit of a warning to MMA promoters that, yes, boxing's lucrative, and we've seen a lot of huge money fights come out recently, especially some of the ones involving the former MMA fighters, ironically, and influencers and things. But having too much, shall we say, manipulation of who fights who is not what the fans want. There's not enough money in MMA fighting really compared to boxing as it is. But I do think that maybe they should think about taking that part of boxing and getting their fighters and paying their fighters what they deserve, instead of actually taking the bad parts of boxing, which is all the politics and negotiations behind the scenes. Something to think about, because it's a great sport, but you don't want to turn into the thing that you used to be against and you used to rail against. Boxing could learn from MMA, but MMA could potentially learn from boxing as we go along. Right, golf now. And something occurred to me the other day when I was talking about, when I was watching the PGA Tour event in the FedEx Cup the other day, and then I saw a couple of Live Golf results on BBC Sport website, for instance, and ESPN, a couple of other places. And it occurred to me that actually all the furore that happened a couple of years ago about the split in golf and about how and all the ferocity that was going on between the two parties, between Liv and the PGA Tour, was actually it has actually died down to the point where it feels like the ecosystem of golf is actually coming together again and actually sort of just working as two arms of the same sort of thing. I think it's only good for the sport because, the Live guys seem happy in their promotion. The PGA Tour guys seem happy in their promotions. The European Tour is pretty strong at the moment. Could be stronger. I think we can always say that it could be stronger. But I think we're getting a formation of a certain number of sort of big players in the of big players in the PGA Tour. Scheffler, Schauffele, Hovland, McIlroy, Oberg. It's that kind of core of players which seem to be pushing the game forward on that side. And then Live Golf is thriving as well, and it's great to see because we talk about Saudi influence all you want, but I do think that it may have ended up being good for the game because more golfers are getting paid more money, aren't they? I still don't really know why some sort of agreement couldn't have been reached where potentially you could have had more joint events, and maybe that could have been maybe that could have been a bit of a solution to the whole thing. But look, I think it's great. There's more golf on my TV screen. I love golf. I'm rubbish at it, as all my friends will attest. But I'm trying, right? I'm trying. I'm learning. But watching these guys on a weekly basis certainly helps to understand the game and try and get better at it. And it's good to see that the animosity seems to have died down. You know, I'm all about being positive on this channel as much as possible. And, you know, that time in golf, it was very acrimonious. I think it's better for everybody involved if you can just sort of get on with their own business. And then when they come together for the majors, world rankings permitting, I think it's good that the world rankings seem to have sort of stabilised a little bit, become a little bit fairer. So yeah, I think golf is going in the right direction. Unlike the ball when I hit it, which, you know, could go anywhere. Little fun story from the world of cycling this week. I don't know if you've heard any of this, anybody, but Matt Richardson, the Australian cyclist who won 3 medals in the Paris 2024 Olympics, he won 2 silvers and a bronze, announced his intention to change his allegiance to Great Britain this week. He's 25. He's from Australia, and he was quite a thorn in the side of the British cyclists actually at the Olympics. Now, first of all, you know, if you're in the comments later on, then after this or during, then, you know, do you think you should be able, this is my question, do you think you should be able to change nationality on a whim? Or not? Because he does have dual citizenship, so he does have British citizenship as well as Australian, but he has been living in Australia for 16 years, and he's competed for Australia for obviously that amount of time. So should you be able to switch your allegiance, especially if you've already competed at the Olympics and won medals and things like that? Should you have to sort of stay with the same country? I mean, who knows, right? Who knows? And that's what my question is to you. It's come out today that it says Australia's cycling governing body expects Matt Richardson to be ineligible to take part in competitive events for 2 years. If he does, then that's the price you pay, I suppose, of changing over. You know, that if I wanted to be a cynic, if I wanted to be like a one of those people, I'd say, oh well, he should have defected 2 years before, and then, you know, those medals could have come to Great Britain. So, but no, fair play to him for you know, doing that. You know, if you can do it, I don't see why you shouldn't. It says the UCI are going to, well, the Australian Cycling Board seem to think that the UCI are going to enforce the non-compete clause essentially for Richardson, which will mean he will probably miss the next World Championship. But of course, you know, if you make that decision, then that is, you know, every decision has consequences, good or bad, and they might be good and bad for Matt Richardson. Okay, I'm going to make this a shorter episode today, so it's probably only going to be another 5 minutes or so. But some interesting transfer news coming out of Leeds United today. And the main one, just having glossed over everything, is actually that it seems that Leeds are trying to re-sign Jack Clark. Now, I really like this. Jack Clark, if you don't know, he played in the Championship under Bielsa in 2019, 2020. and then he was signed by Tottenham for quite a lot of money. It was about 15 million quid, I think. And then he it was 25 million apparently is the fee that Sunderland are quoting for Clark to come back. Still only 23. So for me, I think it's a good one. I think it would be good. I like him. He's obviously got loyalty to the club. It seems like he wants to come back. I think it's probably going to end up being somewhere between that 15 million I think it was that Spurs paid for him and the 25 that Sunderland are wanting. I think it'll probably end up being about 20 million, if it is. There might be a sell-on clause to Tottenham as well, which might be influencing the price. So, well, there is a sell-on clause to Tottenham, which is influencing the price. But a lot of money has come into Leeds United since this transfer window started. You know, you've got 40 million for Archie Gray, you've got 10 million euros for Glenn Kamara, Crescencio Somerville, 25 million at least, 40 million for Jorginho Ruter, so that's 65, 105, 115 million at the very least that's come in. So there's money to spend. Daniel Farke says he wants four players in before the end of the window. So I think that I do think we need reinforcements if we're going to challenge for automatic promotion. Clark could be a good start. I don't know about Dejan Lubicic as well. He's another one. He's another target for the Bundesliga 2 side. FC Köln. So yeah, he's 26-year-old midfielder. So, you know, they may have to sell him because FC Köln don't have any money, really. So they might have to try and cash in on one of their better players, Austrian international. So yeah, I think that we're in a good place. I think Daniel Farke knows what he wants. I think he knows that that the squad depth isn't quite where it needs to be. I think we've got a good squad. I think if you just look at our bench compared to a lot of benches in the Championship, I think we're in a good place. I think we have good quality. I think having a couple more players to choose from, especially in the wide positions, I think, and some backup at the full-back positions, I think would definitely help us. I personally would like an attacking midfielder to come in to support Aronson, and if they want to play Peru maybe in a more advanced role, then having someone behind him with the quality to find him, and Patrick Bamford and Mateo Joseph, is certainly going to help us, I think, going forward. So, developments at Ellen Road, and the development from me is that I'm going to shoot off. But thank you again for watching. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you want to like it, share it, subscribe to it, I'd be very, very pleased indeed. Because this has been a lot of fun so far for me in these couple of days, and I want it to continue for as long as possible, and I will be doing everything I can to do that. So join me again, hopefully tomorrow, for more on the Andrew Woodhouse Show. But for now, it's goodbye from me. See ya.